Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. Got another Master Duel video for you, coming at you with some Mitsurugi K9. So this is a variant that is actually quite strong because not only are K9 and Mitsurugi good engines in their own right, but you can actually pivot from either engine into the other. And I'm going to show you how to do that both ways here. We're going to start with K904 Noroi. If you open your K9 stuff, you can normal summon the Noroi. We're going to activate Noroi's effect, and we can actually special summon a Jokel from our deck to the field. Now we're going to activate the effect of our Jokel. We're going to this time add a copy of Lantern from our deck to our hand. Now we're locked into K9, but that's fine because we want to summon the Ripper anyway. We'll do that with Noroi plus Jokel. And then now I'm going to activate the Ripper effect. We're going to detach the Jokel. And then now we get to add a copy of Izuna from our deck to our hand. Alright, let's go ahead and activate the Ripper effect. We're going to target the Jokel, and then summon. And we're going to activate Lantern's effect in order to add a copy of a case for K9. We're going to activate a case for K9, and using this we'll get another copy of Jokel from our deck to our hand. We can activate the Jokel, we're going to show them the Izuna, and then we'll summon both. Of course, on summon, Izuna gets to activate as well. We're going to dump the Lupus from our deck to the graveyard. And at this point, we're actually going to make the Infinitrack River Stormer. Looks weird, but this is actually how we're going to pivot from K9 into Mitsurugi. Now you might be thinking, Hex, are you sure you're not confusing it with Crystron? But no, let me show you. We're going to activate the River Stormer, detach the Jokel, and we're actually going to add the Magic-y Mech Mortar Gearglosser from our deck to our hand. This looks really, really weird, but don't worry, we're not actually going to summon this, and I'll show you why we're adding it here in just a moment. As we go to link summon the Ashlan U1000 using River Stormer plus one of our two remaining K9 monsters. Effect monsters, that is. Obviously, you don't want to link away the Ripper. So Ashlan U1000 is a Link 2 that has the effect where we can reveal a ritual monster in our hand to add another ritual monster with a different type and attribute from our deck to our hand. So we're going to reveal the Mech Mortar, and then now we can add the Habakiri from our deck to our hand. And that's how you pivot between the K9 into Mitsurugi. Now we can just take our Ashlan and our remaining K9 monster and just link them off into a Little Knight. And let's go ahead and do some Mitsurugi stuff. We're going to activate Habakiri. We're going to summon Saji from deck and then Tribute. This will, of course, let us activate the Saji effect. We're going to add the Mitsurugi Ritual from our deck to our hand. Now, we're on a smaller Mitsurugi package. I'll go over this more in the deck breakdown towards the end of the video after our ranked games. But for a smaller Mitsurugi package like this, we're actually going to want to summon Murakumo from deck first. Usually you summon the Habakiri from hand first, but we don't have any other Mitsurugi main deck monsters to send, so we're going to summon the Habakiri first, or the Murakumo rather first. And then we're going to activate the Habakiri effect, and that'll let us add Mitsurugi Mirror from our deck to our hand. Now we can activate the Mirror. We're going to tribute the Murakumo that's on the field to summon the Habakiri that we just sent to the graveyard. Alright, there's Habakiri. Now Murakumo gets to activate. We can add a copy of Prayers from deck to hand. And then, of course, the Murakumo will revive itself. But we're definitely not done here. We're going to make a rank 8. We're going to make the Divine Golden Dragon Dragalong. Which you might be used to summoning this if you've played Mitsurugi Ryzeal. We're going to use it for the same purpose, actually. On summon, we're going to activate the effect to add a Tachyon card from deck to hand. In this hand, I already opened the 7th Tachyon, but this is what you would want to be adding off of your effect. Now we can activate the effect of our Dragalong. We're going to detach both of our Mitsurugi cards. And now we can go into the number 38 Hope Harbinger Dragon Titanic Galaxy for a spell negate. Let's go ahead and activate the 7th Tachyon. We can show our opponent number C06 Giant Red Hand. And then we can add a copy of Izuna from deck to hand for follow-up. And if you like all the other cards in your hand, you could even just go ahead and put back the Magic-y Mech Mortar, since we're not going to be using it for anything. Alright, set your prayers, and then there you go. This is what your end board bridging from K9 into Mitsurugi looks like. We've got the Little Knight Banish, we've got the Ripper Hand/Graveyard effect negate, Hope Harbinger will negate a spell card, we have the prayers to revive the Murakumo from the graveyard, that'll give you a board wipe plus the pseudo negate effect, and we also added a follow-up copy of Izuna with the Lupus in the graveyard to make another rank 5 like Valen or Nosh Knight or something during your opponent's turn. Alright, now that I've shown you how to bridge from K9 into Mitsurugi, let's show you Mitsurugi into K9. Alright, so in a hand that opens Habakiri, we can do the following. Activate Habakiri, we're going to special summon the Saji from our deck, and then tribute it. This will let us trigger the Saji effect. We're going to add the Mitsurugi Ritual from our deck to our hand. And again, because we're on a smaller Mitsurugi package that I'll go over in the deck breakdown at the end, we're going to summon Murakumo from deck first by sending the Habakiri that's in our hand. We'll summon that right over here. And then, of course, this will trigger the Habakiri effect, and we'll get to add the Mitsurugi Mirror, the other ritual spell from our deck to our hand. We're going to activate the Mirror. We're going to tribute the Murakumo that's on board in order to revive the Habakiri that is in our graveyard. This will, of course, trigger the Murakumo effect to search and then special summon itself. We're going to add a copy of Mitsurugi Prayers from deck to hand. And then we're going to special summon the Murakumo. Alright, now we're going to overlay for the Divine Golden Dragon Dragalong. Again, this is very similar to what you would do in Mitsurugi Ryzeal in the past. We can activate the On Summon effect, which will allow us to add the 7th Tachyon from our deck to our hand. Now we're going to activate our Dragalong effect. We're going to detach both of our Mitsurugi monsters. And now we can summon the Hope Harbinger on top. Alright, now from here, let's go ahead and activate 7th Tachyon. I'm going to show my opponent number C106 Giant Red Hand because it's a rank 5 Earth monster, meaning I can add Noroi. If you did want to add Jokel or Lantern, you can show them C104, which is Dark and rank 5. I'll just put back the other Habakiri here. Okay, so now we can go for normal summon the K904 Noroi. We're going to activate the Noroi effect, and we are going to special summon a Jokel from our deck. We can activate the on-field effect of Jokel. We're going to add Lantern from deck to hand. And then we're going to overlay into Ripper. There we go. Alright, Ripper gets to activate. To add a K9 card from deck to hand, let's go ahead and detach Jokel. It doesn't really matter. And we're going to add a copy of Izuna. Alright, let's go ahead and activate the Lantern. Target the Jokel. Summon both. Now we get to activate Lantern's effect. We're going to add a copy of a Case for K9 from deck to hand. Let's activate a Case for K9. And this time we're going to add the other Jokel, the second one from deck to hand. In this case, I already opened it, so I guess I'll just go ahead and grab, like, Noroi. But yeah, you would want to add your second Jokel from the deck to the hand. Alright, now we're going to make the Nosh Knight using the on-field Jokel plus Lantern. We can activate the Nosh Knight effect in order to detach both, and then we'll attach the number 104 from our deck. And, of course, this will allow us to go into the C-Xyz Nosh Knight. And then once we activate that by detaching the regular Nosh Knight, now we can summon out the C-104 Umbral Horror Masquerade. Masquerade effect gets to activate here. We're going to destroy our own copy of the Case for K9, and that'll let us activate it in order to set the forced release from our deck. Alright, now let's activate the Jokel, showing the Izuna that we added off of a Case for K9. We can activate the Izuna effect and dump the Lupus. Again, I'll dump Noroi because I already have Lupus in my hand, but normally you would dump the Lupus to the graveyard. And then we can finally end with Valen, the Super Sai Sky Blaster. After setting Mitsurugi prayers, you can pass over to your opponent, and there's your end board. So it's pretty similar to the pure K9 end board of Ripper, Valen, Umbral Horror with the Force Release setup, but because we actually led with Mitsurugi plays to get here, we get a couple of bonuses on top. We get the Hope Harbinger Spell Negate, which is very, very good against a lot of board breaker effects, and you also have Mitsurugi Prayers set. Prayers, of course, can revive the Murakumo that is in our graveyard, which will board wipe and then have its own negate effect. So as you can see, the combo potential between these two archetypes is quite potent. Not only can you bridge from one to the other, but you can also add additional negates to the end board without having to compromise your board state. Alright, now that I've shown you some combo lines, let me show you some master ranked gameplay so you can see this deck in action. Okay, let's start with a going second game against K9 Vanquish Soul, which of course is the current big bad deck on Ranked Ladder, the one you're seeing the most often, and arguably just the best deck in this meta. Alright, so here we did open the Imperm, but that's all we really have going for us. We're going to lead with normal summon Noroi, and I'm going to throw out the Imperm on the Noroi, and we're going to have to cross our fingers and really hope that's going to be enough here. And we actually got pretty lucky, and it did end up being enough. So Imperm on Noroi, our opponent's going to pass after that. I'm going to go draw phase Mitsurugi Prayers here, tributing the Murakumo. If you have Mitsurugi Prayers, you always want to do it during the draw phase. Make sure your toggle is set to on, definitely, but that way you can dodge the Droll and Lockbird. Even though the Prayers got hit with the Ash Blossom, we still get to add a Mitsurugi Ritual, and then we have the pre-prep as well. We're going to activate that, but our opponent's going to throw out a Lupus in response. So now they have the option to make a rank 5. Fortunately for us, we have access to the Murakumo board wipe, so the Lupus target protection on the rank 5 isn't really going to help here. Also, I think my opponent misplayed and went into the rank 5 really early here. I think they should have waited to see what I was going to do and then decide if they want to go into Valen or Ripper. I guess their thought process is that they want to go for the Ripper on my Saji effect, but I don't think that's a very good play for a couple of reasons. One, they know I have Mitsurugi Ritual because I added it off of Murakumo. Two, they know I have Mirror plus Habakiri because I added that off of pre-prep. So really, they should know that even if they Ripper my Saji, I can still make multiple Mitsurugi plays here. We're going to use Mirror, tribute the Habakiri in hand to revive that Murakumo that's in our graveyard. Again, the Lupus target protection won't matter here because the Murakumo destroys all monsters on the field. So there's the board wipe, and then we also get the search off the Habakiri for another Prayers, because there's not much else to search at this point. Now we're going to activate a case, add Jokel. Since I already have Lupus in hand, I can just add the Jokel here and then summon out this way. Jokel effect's going to add a Lantern, but there's no need to do any more fancy comboing at this point. We can just swing in for lethal. So yeah, that was a pretty clean going second game. A very simple one because our one hand trap, again, thankfully did end up being enough to stop them. But let me show you some more, like, I guess, intricate gameplay. Okay, this time we'll be going second against Artmage. While not as powerful of a deck, this will be a bit more of a back and forth game, so let's see what we've got here. Alright, so we have the Ash Blossom, no other hand traps though, a bit unlucky to only open the one. They're going to lead with Power Patron and then Gruff Flare to set the Vandalism. Activating the Vandalism, I threw out the Ash Blossom here, but I actually think I probably should have held this, right? Because they're gonna, well, here's the thing. If they add Medius up here, I know that lets them go into their big boss monster. So I think this was actually the right call to Ash Blossom that. But I was wondering if I should have waited for the card that added the field spell, or that played the field spell. I don't know, I guess this ended up being right. I'm gonna throw out Fuelos during my own turn here, just in case they're able to fusion summon during my turn. Now we're gonna go case for Izuna. Activate Jokel, reveal Noroi. Can't normal summon Noroi here because they only have one card in hand, but they're going to go Imperm on the Jokel effect, excuse me, the Jokel effect to try to add a card. Not a big deal though, because I can just use Ripper to add the Lantern instead. And we are going to do just that. Here is Ripper. Now Ripper effect's going to activate, detaching Jokel, and they have a second Imperm. So unfortunately, we don't get to really extend our plays beyond just this one Ripper and Case. We do have Call By and Izuna, so it's better than nothing. We're definitely going to battle over this Power Patron, so they don't have access to any plays on their turn. Alright, opponent's going to go. They're going to activate the Graflare, trying to pop the face down. I'm going to chain Call By on the Power Patron. That way, they're not able to set up plays on this turn, or my turn if they want to try to quick fuse with the Power Patron. Okay, here's the field spell, adding Finmel. Or Finemel, I'm not sure. We're going to try to activate. I'm going to go for the Ripper effect here. And that's going to be enough to get them to concede. Which makes sense, because, you know, they would have been left with only the, what do you call it? The Graflare on the field. Although, to be fair, I would have been in top deck mode as well, because I couldn't have searched off of the Ripper, and Izuna isn't live until they start activating effects from hand. Of course, actually, here the Izuna was live during their turn, and I would have done it during, like, the end of their turn, or end of main, rather, because you have to Izuna during the main phase, but... Alright, let me show one last duel before we finish off here. Alright, for this last game, we're going to be up against K9 Vanquish Soul yet again. But this time, it's going to be a going first game. And I wanted to show you just how to play if you open both K9 and Vanquish Soul, or Vanquish Soul, both K9 and Mitsurugi plays like we did here. Because honestly, this will happen a lot more often than opening just one or the other. And it is good to know how to bridge between them, because that does happen, of course, but very likely you're going to open some amount of Mitsurugi plays and some amount of K9 plays. If that's the case, I like to lead with the Mitsurugi stuff, because the Murakumo can serve as a extra negate, or not extra negate, but an extra discard if your opponent tries to use another hand trap, right? Also, it plays a little bit better into Nibiru, because if your stuff gets tributed, of course, early on, you can just summon it back and then search as well. Alright, so here we're going to go for the mirror, summon back that Habakiri. The other nice thing, I love playing decks with two engines, because the other nice thing is that there are a lot of games where your opponent will kind of throw all of their hand traps at one of your engines, and then you can just go into the other, right? So at this point, I'm waiting to see if my opponent's going to do anything like, not just like Nib or something, but like Ghost Bell, you know, in response to some of my plays here. We're going to use 7th Tachyon, putting back in extra prayers. And then before I go into the Dragalong and Hope Harbinger, I'm going to go for Izuna Lupus while the Murakumo is still up. Now here we can go for the Ripper effect, and now we don't have to worry about hand traps at all. And after that we can use Lantern. Again, I was mainly waiting to see if my opponent used anything against my Mitsurugi stuff or the board I was establishing, because even if they did, we could still have gotten a Lantern from our hand to extend into more plays. Yeah, when it comes to, and this applies not just to this deck, but to any deck playing multiple engines, like, this came up a lot when I was playing Snake Eye Yummy as well, right? Whenever you're playing a deck that has multiple engines, you always really got to think about how you're layering them. And that's always pretty much going to be hand dependent every single time, right? But you definitely want to make sure that you're layering in the engines in a way that plays around your opponent's hand traps optimally. Alright, now we'll go for the Dragalong. I like doing this, right? Making the Divine Golden Dragon and then going into the Hope Harbinger, rather than just going straight into Hope Harbinger. Because by making the Golden Dragon first, that actually puts your Murakumo into the graveyard, so that prayers will be live, whereas the Hope Harbinger doesn't actually detach in order to negate spells. So if you go straight into Hope Harbinger, you're going to be out of luck, right? Alright, we can set prayers and force release, and there we go. Opponent decides they don't want to try playing against this end board, and they're just going to give the game to us. Beautiful stuff. Let's show you the deck list, and I'll go over it here in the deck breakdown before we end the video. Okay, so here is the list for Mitsurugi K9. This definitely plays a lot more like a pure K9 deck than a Mitsurugi deck, because as you can see, our Mitsurugi package is relatively limited. It's just 1 Murakumo, 3 Habakiri, 3 pre-prep, 1 ritual, 1 mirror, and then 3 prayers. So the idea here, of course, as we showed off in the combo guide, is that with the Magic-Key Mech Mortar added off the Infinitrack Riverstormer, we can use the Ashlan U1000 to reveal it and then add Habakiri. And then that's how we go, of course, into the Mitsurugi plays. But like I said, this typically is going to play more like a pure K9 deck, right? With the end boards of Ripper, plus the Umbral Horror, plus another rank 5 like Valen as well. It's just a matter of, again, sometimes you also get to have the Hope Harbinger plus Prayers from Murakumo on top of that. I think this deck is really cool, and I would recommend this over Pure K9, I think for sure. Like, Pure K9 is an interesting deck because the main reason I think to play it is the amount of room for off-engine you have, like hand traps or board breakers or stuff, but I think at the end of the day, it's really easy to supplement a secondary engine and still have a satisfactory amount of room for your hand traps and stuff, right? And I think Mitsurugi K9 is a really, really good example of that. While it does require a bit of dedicated main deck space, it's not so much that I think it's too, you know, it's too much, right? It's not so much that it's too much. So we are at 42 cards, but I mostly did that to fit more hand traps. Usually in a deck, when I'm pushing the envelope over 40, it's more of a matter of fitting in hand traps on top of engine rather than making room for the engine itself, right? Like, you could just straight up cut Nib in one of the Fualoses and be at 40, and that would be totally fine, but like I said, I really like having a solid amount of hand traps. In this build in particular, let's see, we've got 1 plus 3 plus 3 is 7, plus 3 is 10, 11, 14. Yeah, 14 is a pretty solid amount, although to be fair, 12 is typically the minimum I like to go for. So we really could just cut Fua and Nib and then be at 40, and that would still have 12 hand traps, which again, I think for a lot of especially high-powered decks in this meta, you really want to be aiming for at least 12. I think 10 is really the bare minimum. If you're playing a deck that has under 10 hand traps in this meta, it's probably something highly specialized, or you really should be having at the very bare minimum 10 hand traps. But so yeah, that's going to do it for my list, my coverage for Mitsurugi K9 for now. This deck is a ton of fun, like I said, and I would like to come back and explore it in the near future. I also got quite a few requests in the comments for this one, so hopefully you were all satisfied. But that is going to go ahead and do it for now. Thank you, as always, for watching. I super appreciate you. Before we sign out, let's move on to our outro so we can give extra special thanks to our YouTube members and Patreon subscribers. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early, as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.